Hey guys, can you hear me? Let me know if the volume is okay. There's already a good amount of people here. How are you guys doing? What's your week? My week was very busy. I almost forgot to schedule this stream, but I managed. Okay, so today we're going to continue what we were doing on the previous stream, which was Genga / Nigen / second key. But this time we're going to focus more on drawing. Okay, last time I explained you a lot of stuff, and now we should focus on drawing so that you guys can get used to the speed. And also I want to show you guys the difference when we are working on cuts that has several frames. Okay, because remember we worked on cuts only with holds last time with only one pose, so now it's going to be a bit more challenging. Also, this is kind of an announcement, but not really. I'll be traveling for the next 2 weeks. I have to visit my parents at the other side of the country, and they don't have very good internet yet, so I'll probably not be able to stream during the next 2 weeks. But I might be able to prepare some stuff for you during those days. Sorry, I really tried. I asked my brother to measure the internet speed over there, and it's basically impossible. So we'll have to wait only 2 weeks, and then we'll be able to stream normally again. Okay. Well, hope you guys will wait for me because we will continue like normal once I come back. Okay. Okay. Let's go to T-Paint because I don't want to waste any more time because there's a lot of work to do. Again, I'll probably not be able to finish this cut during the 2 or 3 hours that we're going to stream today, but we will do our best. Okay, T-Paint. Now, for the people that might be watching this for the first time, remember that you can ask me anything on the chat, and I'll do my best to answer you every few minutes. Nice. Now, any comments? Oh, there's a lot of known people here. Haruko, Shadow, Urux, Bert. Nice to see all you guys here. Okay, let's begin. So I'm going to show you again how we piece our corrections together, because that was important. So first I'm going to import the layout. This is the cut that we're going to be doing. It has 4 poses. Because we're doing Nigen, we can just leave them like this in the timeline, because we don't have to care too much about the timing once we're doing Nigen, because all of that we already did, supposedly, when we're doing layout. So remember, our bottom layer is always going to be the layout. After that, we're going to import whatever comments the director gave us. This time we'll have 1 comment, and that's for post number 2. You see, this is how it looked originally, and the director changed it like this. That's the only correction that the director gave us. After that, we have to put the second corrections. I have a couple of them. This one and a third. Up on the second. So we have a correction for the first pose. This one. Look, it changed a lot. Even though the layout was pretty good, it was a big change. After that, we have one for pose number 2. And then we have one for number... We don't have any correction for pose number 4. This is one thing that I always tell people when they're trying to figure out how to do Sakan. Remember that Sakans are directors. Directors are not supposed to do all the work themselves. They're supposed to literally direct people in the right way to do stuff. So Sakans are most likely not going to correct every pose unless it is a mess of a cut. But that even that is a bit of a stretch. Sakans should not correct all of the poses. They just correct the most important poses generally, so that the person that comes after, the person that's doing Nigen, like us, will have enough information to correct the rest of the drawings. Okay, so after the Sakan drawings, we have the Sosakan drawings. And we have one for pose number 1 and for pose number 3. So we'll leave a space here. So if you look at my timeline, make it a bit bigger. I hope it is visible how I'm putting the corrections right on top of the frames they're correcting. And if there's one pose that the Sakan or the Sosakans didn't correct, they leave a blank space. Okay, so there's some poses that are going to have corrections for Sakan or Sosakan, and some others don't. The ones that do not will have to be matched later. We'll see if we have time to show you. Okay. So one of the things that I forgot to mention last time, but it's also very important, is that look at the layout. Layout drawings are done in the layout template. They have all of the fields and safety lines and all of that we explained later, explained earlier. And the title and the cut number and the duration. For Nigen, we have to get rid of most of those stuff. How do we do that? We could duplicate one of these drawings, put it on top. We basically have to preserve only the pegs for Nigen. Why? Because we don't need the fields anymore. And if you are doing Nigen and you leave the fields, all of the squares and all of that, they're going to ask you to do it again. That's not accepted. So I'm going to do it pretty easily. I'm going to just select the pegs and the tonality thing because, okay. Going to invert, and then I'm going to place it. And because of the Nigen is going to be on white paper, it doesn't matter that it looks like that here, because it will be white on white, so it doesn't matter. We could also like do multiply, and then it looks normal. Okay, but always remember that you have to get rid of most of the layout template except for the pegs. There might be exceptions sometimes. A couple of times they have asked me to erase the pegs too. I remember for Mushoku Tensei, Bind asked me to erase the pegs. I don't know if they were testing some new system or anything, but it's very, very uncommon. And for other productions like Onimai, which is also from Studio Wine, they didn't ask me to erase the pegs, so I don't know what was the reason, but sometimes they might ask you to do that. Okay. think we're ready to begin. I'm going to make a white layer so I don't have to change all of the opacities all the time, and I'm going to draw on top. Let me read the comments just before I begin to draw. So hello. Okay, everyone's saying hello. Again, this stream I'm going to focus more on drawing, so this might be a bit more of a silent stream than the others. I think I'm going to be talking a bit less, but still I'm going to be looking at your comments from time to time to answer your question. Okay. Okay. I'm going to make this just a bit visible. And remember, first you begin from the top. I'm tracing the Sosakan corrections now, and then we're going to go down to Sakan, maybe Enshutsu, and then the layout. By the way, I'm still using pressure on my brush, just like last time, because my hand is still a bit jittery. For sometimes you stop doing this, you definitely lose some of the skill, and it takes some time to get used to it. I guess that's natural with everything, though. Remember, we're first going to do all of the many black lines as we can, and then we focus on the other colors. Especially in this model, this character that has a ton of colors. That reminds me, I have to import the. Let's say a bit. Why do I have to import the sete? Because if the Sakan or the Sosakan corrections are not 100%, they don't draw 100% of the character, I might have to get the information from the setting. It's very, very common. And again, these corrections I'm using, these Sosakan corrections, like this, the Sakan corrections, these are very, very finished corrections. You might even be surprised eventually when you begin working for Japan. You might even get surprised because you're hardly ever receive corrections as good as this. Okay, I made a mistake. I was drawing on the wrong on the wrong layer, but I'm going to solve it very quick. I'm going to erase one on top. I'm going to erase the effects on this one. Okay, thankfully, it wasn't that terrible. That's because I'm talking all the time. Oh, I remember. One very, very important thing that I also should have mentioned last time is that if there's any kind of notation in your layout drawings, like for example this A1 here, from the basic notations to the most advanced one, this A1, they have to be present on your Nigen too. Okay, because a lot of times it happens that the person that's doing Nigen does not trespass the notations to the Nigen, and that's very bad because the notations get lost. It happens a lot too with spacing charts. Sometimes there's spacing charts in the layout, and the person that's doing Nigen does not trespass them to Nigen, and then it's lost. That could lead to a lot of mistakes. it happened a lot here in Gura because we had a lot of new people doing stuff, and they often forgot to pass the spacing charts. So I had to pay a lot of attention to that we didn't miss anything. Okay, we did all of the black lines for this correction, which was only the eyes. So I'm going to do the red ones before I forget. Highlight, it looks like. It looks like because I haven't seen with like attention this drawings for a long time. So if you asked me to draw this from memory, it would be impossible. Okay, so we finished the Sosakan corrections for this post. So now we're going to go to Sosakan, the Sakan correction that's under it, that has a lot more information that we can get. Look at the corrections, how they work. That's basically the difference that the Sosakan wanted to make compared to the Sakan. He straightened the highlights of it and did less eyelashes. Yoshi, the guy that was our Sosakan, was very meticulous with this kind of stuff. Like sometimes we just couldn't believe the level of corrections he was doing. But that's okay. Like if you can do them on time, then it's great because all of the characters are going to look even better. Okay, so we're going to focus again the black lines first, and then we look more carefully at the colored ones. But you can just choose a section that you want to focus, like the hair. Do that until you finish. And then you jump to another part of the character. It's not very good. And if you have a very long line like this one, you can just use a tool. It's hard to just do it with your hand. Really simple. We're getting a good speed. This is the beginning. I managed to straighten my lines with it. you could technically also use the tool more. Like if you're struggling with your lines in general, sometimes your hand is just jittery for whatever reason. You can use no problem. One thing that you will eventually notice though is that even the tool can make uh, terrible curves. Like even when you're using this kind of tool, you still have to make a curve with your wrist. Remember when we talk about the natural curves wrist of your shoulder? You still have to do it here. Otherwise, the tool will still mess up your curves. Another thing that some people do when they're maybe doing it a bit faster is this. Notice here that they just pass the other line, they just cross it, and then you can do this if it helps you to do better curves. Then you can just erase what's left and it's totally fine. At least in Nigen, when you're doing eventually Dolga or your final cleanup, you might need to be a bit more careful with that kind of stuff. But remember, Nigen is not your final cleanup. Because the Dolga people are going to redraw everything again. Very good. Fine to do. From time to time, it's also good to, if you're using you're using zoom a lot, zooming too much on the image, good to go back a bit and look if the lines look okay, because the zoom can distort a lot the lines, especially in TV Paint, where even the tilting of the canvas can also make your lines look different. Lines are very big, so Another thing that you should not worry too much, the volume of your lines. If sometimes a line, especially when you're working with this very thin lines, if your lines sometimes are just a bit bigger or just a bit thinner than the others, do not worry about that. Not that important, this specific process. It will be very important though in Doga. I don't know if we'll manage to do this one. I have to use the tool. Shit, I was phrasing. There. Better. Let me read the for a bit. Okay, Shadow is asking, when you're doing Nigen or Yenga, do you use a different pen or the anti-aliasing? For Nigen, I generally use one with anti-aliasing because the lines tend to be very thin, and if you're using the one with aliasing, like the very pixelated one, it kind of the line kind of degenerates. It's not very visible. So when I'm doing Nigen, I generally use one with aliasing. I not always use pressure, but again, I haven't done this for a long time, and my curves are kind of yanky, so I'm using a bit of pressure to help me. A couple more people came. Hello everyone. Someone's asking, does it matter if you're doing Nigen or Genga on a vector layer or raster layer? It doesn't matter, because you're going to have to just export PNGs or JPEGs. There's a kind of a discussion to about vectors and raster, because there's different types of vectors, vector layers and stuff. Sometimes the software has something that's called a vector layer, but it doesn't let you export vectors, so it's kind of a weird thing. Do you guys know what the actual difference between raster and vectors is? Do you guys know that, like, the basic explanation? A raster is a bitmap. It's basically a grid of a lot of pixels, and there's part of the code of the image that tells the image that it has to paint some of these pixels in whatever way. That's a raster. A vector is something very different. For example, we could have a curve made in a raster, like this one, which is only pixels. Okay? It's the same. It's just pixels, just like this one. But if we do a vector, which I'm not going to do here because I don't think Nigen can do that, a vector is actually is not expressed in the same way. A vector is a function, it's a mathematical function. So it is, I can do the function here, but it's basically a mathematical function that is telling the computer how to do this curve. That's why you can zoom infinitely to vectors and they don't degenerate, because the computer will just change one variable of the function and the curve will just grow infinitely. That's basically the very basic explanation. But again, for this kind of drawing softwares, some of them may have a vector option, but they might not let you do real vectors. One software that is real vector based software is Illustrator. Illustrator is full vectors, and they let you do all of the things that a vector should do, because they're working with logos and stuff, and those have to be, you have to be able to scale them infinitely. Why did I erase this one? Getting careless with my Control Z. Let's continue. There's a lot of more stuff to do with this. Sometimes it's just faster to use, especially for all these long lines. Using doesn't look at all like. Maybe Osaka was in a rush and they just did more lines that they. Okay, I think we know what to do. Talking about this area, see, there's like a lot of lines there. Like not all of them are supposed to be there. But if you look at the next post, you kind of get the idea of what lines are supposed to be there. That's also important. Eventually, when we have to match all of the posts together, you'll have to flip a lot. This is called flipping, when you pass from one post to the other very quickly to see if the transition looks natural. Flipping is actually one of the most important tools or stuff that the animators should do constantly. But a lot of new animators do not flip, and they rely too much on the onion skin or the light table, and that's actually not that good. Why not? Because animation is supposed to be visualized in movement. And a lot of people find out that if they animate only based on what they see on the onion skin, then their animation ends up looking terrible. They don't know why. And that's basically the reason, because you did your animation based on the onion skin or the light table. You're not supposed to do. You ignored basically all of the important stuff that flipping your images would have shown you. That's also more easily learned when you're working on a paper. Our teachers would tell us all the time to just turn off the light table. We would rarely use the light table, honestly, when we were working on paper. We'll just flip our stuff all the time. And it's not only better, like the animation looks better, it's also faster. You eventually get very fast when you're animating on paper. It's a bit counterintuitive for some people. You would think that it would be faster on the computer, but there's, again, with everything, advantages and disadvantages. We have been here for a bit more, for around 40 minutes, and we have not finished the first post. So you kind of get the idea why Nigen takes so long. Again, I'm probably not going to be able to finish this cut at all in 2 or 3 hours, but I'm going to upload. In fact, I already did in the Google Drive folders in the description of the video. You can find this cut with all of the corrections. Well, I mean the layout with the second corrections, and you also have the Genga version, like the finished version that we used for the video. So you can compare them and use them for whatever you want. And after I finish this stream, I might upload the Genga version of the rest of the guts that I've uploaded. I have to dive into the folders again. The old Tonari Google Drive. That's the only problem. I wish I was able to get more Nijisanji material too, but animation just generates so many files that it's impossible to keep all of it in just one drive. So they have to move them constantly. I sometimes lose access to some of the folders. And with almost any company, sometimes it takes a lot of time to get access to stuff if you're not like directly working with all of the people. That one came out pretty well. Big line. Pretty decent. Okay, let me read the. I'm saying raster are pixels basically. Meanwhile, vector are just coordinates of the page and calculations. Yeah, exactly. Arshel is saying, I know that vectors in Toon Boom, you can change every line as you wish. Yes, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. I remember I worked on Toon Boom for around a year when I was working on Western animation, and I hated it so much. I hated it so much because I was just drawing. Sometimes I had to do vector stuff. Uh, Sometimes you would just click a line and it would turn into hundreds and hundreds of points of vector stuff, and I just hated that so much. I felt it didn't let me just draw normally. But again, that's just me, that I don't like using too many tools. And he's saying, I started using Affinity Designer because Adobe is causing a lot of issues these days with their unstable programs, not to mention the bad monopoly. Yeah, guys, like, I was going to ask you this the other day. Any of you guys using the latest version of Adobe stuff? Like like everything like original and stuff? Because I pay the Adobe suite every month, but the softwares are getting so bad. Like, I don't know if it's me in my computer. My computer is not a bad, it's not a bad computer. It's actually pretty decent. But the Adobe stuff is getting extremely laggy. Like, I literally cannot work normally on Photoshop. For example, I do my thumbnails in Photoshop, like the very simple thumbnails that I use for YouTube. And man, it's such a pain to work on Photoshop because you cannot do a stroke with your brush or anything without it lagging. So I don't know, like, is it just me or you guys are having the same problem? I was looking for some like some home advices, like some people telling me to change some of the stuff on my computer, some of the settings. But honestly, I haven't had time to try it. But I wanted to know your opinion about that because it's getting really bad. After Effects and Premiere are not any better. But those are the softwares I use the most. I use Photoshop, After Effects, and Premiere. And they're so laggy. Arshel is saying, yeah, I always watch Yan doing flipping on stream. Yes, Yan does know how to do his stuff very well. Onion skin makes it faster, but it's not as good as flipping. Yeah, sometimes it makes it faster, but just wait until you have more and more lines on your on your drawing, and it will get very confusing. It always happens to me. There is asking, are you going to make more streams in the future about the next processes like Doga, final cleanup, coloring, and compositing? I'll have to see, because I don't always do all of those processes myself in the softwares that the Japanese animation industry uses. Like, for example, I know how to in between and do cleanup very well, but not necessarily in the way that the Japanese do it. Like, for example, using CSP, all of the Doka process in Japanese animation goes in CSP, and I don't know how to do it, honestly. I might there's two options. I might have to learn, or I don't know. Maybe I could bring someone else, or. But yeah, Doga, I don't know. I could teach you to in between though, like just do normal in betweening, which I think it would be pretty much the same. But yeah, like that's one of the reasons why I haven't like made it to do Doga or compositing, for example. Like, I do know some stuff about compositing, but not necessarily in the way the Japanese do it. The Japanese have their own plugins and stuff that are very standard to the industry, and I do not use those myself. Why not? Because I do not do compositing myself most of the time. I do funnily enough, uh, TV Paint is actually pretty decent for compositing. So a lot of in these videos, in the Gura video and the Bigi Sanji video, I did some compositing in TV Paint, which actually turned out to be very decent. But yeah, probably if we're going to focus on Japanese animation like industry standards, it's probably not very good, uh, or not good enough. I can still show you some principles from time to time. Um, but about the streams, yeah, I'm going to keep streaming for as long as possible. I'm going to keep looking at interesting stuff to show you. We might do one about storyboard, for example. Even though storyboard is a big topic, uh, we could talk about the principles of storyboarding. We could eventually do the second stream, stuff like that. There's still a lot of stuff to cover. And the other thing I want to do is exercises. I'd like to just take the survival kit and do all of those exercises that we never do. Because most people just pick up the animation survival kit and they just read it from beginning to end, and that's good, but you have to do the exercises. So I want to do the exercises with you, see if we find some interesting stuff. I think that would be some interesting streams. Mongo is saying latest Adobe, it's a lot of RAM. Yes, it does, but you know, TV Paint, it's even more. So I don't think it's my RAM. I have a ton of RAM, and TV Paint, it's most of it. So I don't think it's a RAM problem. Jose is saying I wouldn't know how to use Adobe at all. I know how to use Photoshop a lot, like pretty decently, because I had some several classes of Photoshop at school, and I read a lot of manuals and stuff, so I know how to use Photoshop very well. But still, the new Photoshop is working so bad that I barely use it. I'm even thinking of reinstalling some old versions. The version I used for most of my education was CS2, and it worked perfectly. But now, I don't even know what version the latest. What? It's working terrible. Photoshop. It just says Photoshop 2024. I don't know. I'm feeling a bit angry at paying it every month, and it's not that cheap either. Shadow is saying, I think it can be interesting for people that want to do YouTube or create their own projects. Yeah, it might be interesting to do. Even honestly, it's also important that I show you the principles of stuff rather than the softwares. That's true. Like I might eventually do something like in betweening and final cleanup for you guys. That honestly could be interesting. Q is saying, flipping has definitely helped me pay attention to what I'm drawing rather than blindly copying what seemed to be good on the panel before. Yeah, that's the thing. I remember I had several animation teachers, but one I have some Disney teachers, like some very old guys from Disney. They would be very strict with us when using the light table or even digitally. But a lot of times on paper, like in person, they would say like they would just go around the desk like turning off our light tables and telling us to flip more. Bert is saying After Effects loves to memory leak on me. Oh man, those softwares, I don't know what's happening to them. They're just getting so complex, and a lot of times when I get used to do something on a previous version, there's an update and they change the menus, and you cannot export the things the same way. Like, I hate it, honestly. 2024, it crashes everywhere. Yes, it does. My Photoshop 2024 has crashed more times than any other Photoshop version I've had. It's not because of RAM. It crashes because the code being all over the place. Yeah, I I suspect that's the issue. Like, I think these softwares are getting just so complex that they are not paying too much attention at the stability of the whole thing. It's like Maya. Have you guys ever used Maya? Autodesk Maya? Maya is like this, but years before. Like, Maya has been having those issues uh forever. When was the last time I used Maya? Like 8 years or 10 years ago. I was using Maya. It was terrible. It was it was a nightmare to use. And yeah, like, just because they add modules and modules of software one over the other for new functions, they 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 do not pay attention to the stability of the software. Some old teacher used to tell me that if you dive deep enough um, into Maya menus and stuff, you can unearth some very very archaic menus from the first versions of Maya that they look totally different to what you have in the current software. He never showed me how, but it's like a legend that you can unearth some very old stuff from those softwares. Um, Marshall is saying in Spanish, is this nigger or cleanup? Because to me, it looks very clean. Um, this is Nigen. Just imagine that Doga is going to look even cleaner. The big difference is that Doga uses only aliased lines, just the very pixelated lines instead of this ones. Doga will do everything like this. Why? Because these lines are way easier to paint over with the paint bucket once you have to send your things to paint. And doing it like this, honestly, it might take some more time. Apart from that, during Doga is both cleanup and in between. So, so yeah, this might look very clean, but it's not the final cleanup. Sadly. I'm only saying haven't used yet, but Maya was supposed to be talk to me. Never got to finish that course though. Thanks for saying for saying that. Um, they they attempted to teach me Maya during um during college. It was impossible because not only the software is very complicated. I'm also a big blockhead, so I just couldn't process Maya at all. You could animate like the the principles of animating are the same, basically. You make keys and then you try to do in betweening either by curves or just doing the pose yourself. But the software, man, it just got in my way all the time. I remember when the teacher used to open the curves map or something like that, which was just a window full of curves, like hundreds and hundreds of curves. I just couldn't handle it. I just gave up. I don't know how well, I approved those classes. How I went through it, but yeah, it was terrible. And a lot of the people that were very good at um on 3D during the classes, they ended up doing they ended up using Blender eventually. It's like I'm very happy I'm free from Maya. I can just use Blender now. Yeah, that's my trauma with 3D softwares. I was very good at using ZBrush though, even though it wasn't a requirement at school. I was very decent ZBrush. Arshel is asking, uh, doesn't that duplicate the work unnecessarily? You could say that it could duplicate the work sometimes, but it's just the way that the industry has grown organically to manage the processes on different departments. Again, if you're doing this on your own, like this is your project and you're going to do basically everything, you can just go past some of these processes. Like if you might want to just do cleanup directly, or something like that. But because of the industry, because there's a lot of people working on it, and we have a lot of correction phases and stuff, um, you basically have to to do it this way. And honestly, it works pretty efficiently in my experience. Uh, I was saying 3D really makes my head hurt. Maybe because of how many options there is. I need to start that Blender study. Seriously, where to start? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, where do you start? And also, to me at least, I don't see myself learning 3D anytime soon. Like seriously, like I might look at some tutorials from time to time, but honestly, like I'm working all the time. Like I don't know, I don't see myself using 3D or learning 3D seriously anytime soon, just because of time. It takes a lot of time. Okay, let's keep drawing. Uh, ba- ba- Nice. Oops. Wrong. And here's one thing that might help with the question that why are we doing this way, instead of just doing the final cleanup now, because we're still animating. You might have not noticed because we have been spending all our time on one frame, but we still have stuff to animate here. Like that's why it is basically second key. We're still doing the animation. Hope I'll be able to show you in the next couple of hours. But yeah, there's a lot of animation to do here. So not just cleanup. The reason we're cleaning all of this is because we're just preparing it for cleanup. Basically what we're doing. If my hand gets just a little bit more steady. But yeah, you should probably not expect a 3D a 3D stream for me. That's probably never going to happen. At least not in this decade. There was basically like when we were at school, there were two factions. There were the guys that were good at drawing that hated 3D, and there were the guys that didn't know how to draw that loved 3D. That was basically how it worked, and we ended up helping each other all the time. And of course, there was one or two guys that were good at both, but I was not among them. There's always in at school. There's always like a guy that's good at everything. You notice? There's always a guy that's like perfect, and never is late for the projects, and that gets like a perfect score at everything. Always one or two people that are like that. I guess for everything, only not only for animation. I was not that person, but I think I've done pretty well after school. Okay, we're getting there slowly, steadily. Looking in retrospect, I was kind of a mess when at school. I was pretty good at some stuff, like whatever uh, whatever had to do with drawing or on animation. But for example, I would just arrive my classes like 2 hours late, and I would just leave the rest of the class. Not on purpose, honestly. Like it wasn't my intention to be disrespectful, but I've always had problems with sleep, even from back then. So sometimes I would just fall asleep, and it was impossible to wake me up. So instead of not going and losing the just missing the class, we just go and stay there for the last half an hour. It's terrible, honestly. I'm not giving you I'm not mentioning it like a good example. It's a terrible example. But I guess it's kind of a hopeful message that even a mess like me uh, can still do something after leaving school. Further, this with the black lens, right? Using the nose. Oh, we're missing the eyebrows. Probably going to use the. Oh, we're missing this line. It looks. Looking pretty good. Very clean. Now let's do color line. I'm going to bring the setting if we're not missing anything. Did you guys downloaded the setting already from our drive? Where you can download all of those stuff. Practice. And thanks to God this pose that we're doing. She has her eyes closed. Yes, look at the detail on those in those eyes. Intimidating. Let me read the comments for a bit. You guys have been talking a lot. After Effects. Maya. The donut tutorial of Blender. Yeah, like everyone just lands on that one at the beginning. And honestly, it's pretty good. Like the very few things I understand from Blender, I understand from those tutorials. I think they're great. I took a week off to learn Blender once, and it was not enough. Yeah, it's definitely not enough. But definitely made the donuts. Need to grind for 1 whole year, and maybe then I will understand how it works. Yes, same. I've made the donut, but I couldn't render it because my laptop was almost explode. Jackie is saying, do you render using circles or DE? I don't know what that means. You can clarify me if you want. Yeah, you need a good GPU for 3D, and you gotta stick to low poly stuff. Or you gotta stick to low poly. Someone saying, hi, I studied 3D Max and hated it. It was so slow and tedious to use. We used 2021 version, but I did all of my homework modeling on Blender. Yeah, there's something that I don't understand. Maybe some of you guys know. Autodesk has some softwares that kind of seem to overlap each other. Like I know Maya is mainly focused on character animation, but 3ds Max can do, as far as I know, almost all of the things that Maya can do. And 3D Max is used a lot in Japan. Like a lot of the 3D series that Japan does, they're done in 3D Max. So I don't know if you guys know why those two softwares exist in parallel in the same company. I don't know myself. Also saying, my brother learned Blender on his own initiative and even made a fully rigged character. That's crazy. Yeah, it sounds like your brother's a genius. Actually saying, Sleeping Beast. Man, like you guys might think it is a joke, but yeah, I have some serious problems like with my sleep schedules for like forever. And at school, even in high school, like, my last 2 years of high school, I just slept all of my classes. Like literally, like the teachers just knew that I was going to sleep during the whole class, so they didn't bother to wake me up. I literally don't know how I managed to pass my exams, but yeah. That's why I eventually learned that I'm just not good at and going to classes, to any kind of classes. Like even for Japanese, I went to Japanese classes for like 2 months, and I wasn't able to just be there. I Now I try to learn everything by myself. I might buy tutorials or books and stuff, but it has to be by myself. I just cannot go to classes because I just fall asleep, like inevitably. Um, Inkavich is saying, I have some students who come super late. Maybe I'll try to remember. They have a sleep problem. Yeah, I'm not justifying going late, as I said, but to me, it was just physically impossible. Like I would either not hear my alarm in the morning, or I would just tap it out, and just fall asleep instantly for 2 more hours. I'm saying I used to go to my course always in a drowsy state. I was drawing all night long. Yeah, that's also a thing. During the last few, not the last few, the last part of the year, every year at school, it was exam season, and we would just not sleep for several days, like everyone. And it was so funny because the last day of our big exam, because we have some smaller exams for some classes, and we had the big exam. We would all be zombies at school. Like we would arrive at school at like 7 a.m. and exams would be be during the whole day, like until 6 or 7 p.m. We would just be zombies during that whole day. It was very tough. Anyway, I know that I remember there's an option in Toon Boom for making the vector more clean and with less nodes. Yeah, I think there's something like that. I eventually learned how to use it, I guess, but it was probably too late. I already hated the software. I'm saying anime eyes literally have a whole galaxy in them. Looks so good, but it takes so much time to draw. Yeah. Honestly, it's a trend that's getting me kind of I'm getting kind of tired of the trend of just filling characters' eyes with details, because most of the time people do not even see those details. If you take away half of the highlights, the shadows of some characters' eyes, people would just not notice. I remember the worst character I've animated was some of the characters from this anime about the guy that turns into slime. Very famous isekai. The characters had at least 20 highlights on each eye. It was insane. Like I never want to animate something like this. For this character designs, I actually urged Yoshi, our character designer, to make less details on the eyes, because it eventually ended up being a ton of work. It was very hard to animate some of this stuff with all of those eyes. It ended up looking pretty well. Like it does looks very pretty, but even though it looks pretty, I would have preferred if it was faster to do. Look, very complex. But the thing is, the character designers took some time to do, and once it was ready like this, there was no time to change it. So he kind of won over me on that one. But I honestly urged the designers to do simpler stuff. I haven't shown you. I think I haven't shown you yet. You might have seen it around, but there is some original concept of Gura for this short, and it looked very different because it was my version of the character. It was way simpler than this one. It would still have looked very nice, but it was way simpler because I just um, value easy to draw characters. I might show you that later. My goal is life is to create an animation like the animation Violet Evergarden of Keone. Yeah, that's a good animation. I didn't finish the series, but it was very impressive. There's some art books too floating around on the internet that you can get. You can get very good insights on how the characters were drawn. So he's saying a drawing is usually twice as hard as you imagine it will be because of it has much detail on the whole body and eye as much as the detail as the whole face. I'm saying, by the way, Beast, what's the specification of your PC? Let me take a look because honestly, I just bought the best PC I could. It's a notebook though. It's a laptop. Because at that time I was traveling a lot, so I needed a laptop. But let me look. Maybe this thing says something. This AMD Ryzen 9 GeForce RTX. I don't know what RTX is inside, honestly. But it's a very top spec laptop from like 2 years ago, so it's good. And I think I have more than 60 gigs of RAM because I bought extra RAM for it. Honestly, I do not care too much about the GPU stuff because I don't play many games and I do not do 3D. So I don't need a big GPU at all. Like all of these softwares that we use to animate 2D, they almost do not use any GPU. They just eat all of your RAM and use a lot of processing power. So yeah, the GPU I do not care that much about that. Do we need a powerful PC for compositing? Yes, you do. Because even if it's not that noticeable, or a lot of people do not know, After Effects is actually a 3D software. So yeah, you probably want some good GPU for that. Minimum PC requirements. That would minimum PC requirements probably. You should look at the software, but man, I'm so not actualized on this. But the thing is, 2D animation, good processor, a lot of RAM because it will eat your RAM very fast. Do not worry about the GPU for 2D animation. Yeah, too much noise in the eyes. Yeah, one thing is people might not notice all of the details. Some people do. Some people do notice, especially when the characters are very close. Yeah, okay. But the other thing is sometimes the design just doesn't work, and the characters have too much stuff on them, and it just looks bad, and it's very hard to animate. Like you will know when you get to animate this kind of stuff. You like normally you will begin hating all of the details that some people add on the designs. That's why we say, some of us say that character designers should be obligated to animate their own characters at some point. Not just correct them, animate them. Because if they did, they would make simpler designs. Someone is saying, yeah, I agree. The majority of people literally do not even care. Do you mean Ridimu? That's from the slime uh anime, right? The I remember the protagonist had a ton of highlights, and the girl, like the girl with pink hair, she had a ton of details too, like very useless details. Um, like he's saying, actually using EV makes your rendering faster, real-time rendering. I still don't know what you guys are talking about. Since we're talking about eyes, I came back after finishing Fujimoto's look back at the cinema, and I wanted to say that the eyes in the animation are opaque, but they're beautiful. I haven't looked at them with a lot of attention. I might take a look. I might take a look now, right? What your guys are talking about. Oh yeah, they have very simple eyes. They look very good actually. They look very natural. I like them. I can afford this. But again, it depends a lot on the kind of designs you're doing. They're very simple. I generally go for stuff like this in my own projects when I can. But especially with VTubers, like when you're animating VTubers, the characters are already designed, so sometimes you cannot change a lot of the stuff. VTuber characters are sadly not made to be animated. He has a NASA laptop. I guess it was a very good laptop when I bought it like 2 years ago. Okay, that's already a great laptop. I agree, GPU isn't necessary for 2D only. After Effects does use a lot of GPU. I'm planning to make a PC, so yeah. This PC was also very expensive, I remember. If I made my own PC with parts, it would have been way cheaper. But as I said, I was traveling a lot during those years, so I needed something to carry around to work. Someone saying, I use for animation Krita and Blender. It's a modified version made by a studio that made the movie Klaus. Oh, like a special Blender? It's very interesting. AC saying, hello, I'm new here. What did I miss here? We've been talking about a lot of stuff. But if you want to know what we're doing Nigen, which is we're on the second part of our Nigen stream. You can watch the first part on the channel, and the previous streams too, because this is Nigen is actually like a very advanced phase of the production process, so you'll probably want to look the previous ones. We can do this more easily. So I made an extra layer for this. I might just combine them later, but I just don't want to get confused with all of these color lines. And we ended up talking about 3D. Old school traumas. Did some of you guys go to animation school? How was it? Do you guys felt it was useful or not? I think my school was a very good school. It ended up being very useful. I learned a lot of stuff. As I said before, not necessarily about animation and drawing, even though I had classes for it. I learned a lot about cinema and making good productions, basically, like making good movies, good shorts, storyboarding, and making good stories. That's what school taught me the most. So I do not regret going to animation school. Next. This. So here, I'm just noticing, here's red, here's green. There's not really a problem with that. Let me see what they did on the final Genga. Here we're red. Again, if we didn't we did it on green, there will probably be no problem, but I'm going to just follow the setting. Probably our Sakan just trying not to confuse all of the lines. We had very good Sakans for this project. This Sakan is the person that this Sakan is actually Nikki, one of the best Sakans around in the industry, and she later designed the characters of the Ren Soto video for Nisanji. We were very lucky. We have been very lucky with our Sakans projects. Nikki is crazy fast too. I know how to do Sakan myself. I do Sakan generally, but Nikki is just way faster. She does very detailed corrections too, which she says that is probably not the best because she spends a lot of time, a lot of extra time just doing details. I am more of I'm a very rough Sakan, honestly, which is not bad because again, Sakans are supposed to indicate the way to draw a character, not to draw the whole character themselves. So I think my way of doing it is actually pretty efficient. Okay, let's do this shadows. The comments for a bit and begin doing shadows. AC saying, I watched the first part of Nigen actually. I'm doing Nigen as for right now. And I would ask for any tips or tricks. Tips or tricks for Nigen. I don't know if there's Nigen is just so basic. One important tip is flip. Use a lot of flipping instead of the light table. The other is use the curve tools if you need. Do not be afraid of a curve tool. Keep your layers separated so that you don't end up drawing on the wrong layer all the time. That would be very hard to erase. And apart from that, there's not a lot of stuff to take care of. Oh, and make sure to pick all of the notations from layout, all of the notations that are on the character, and pass them to the Nigen. And remember the numbers, like the A1, A2, the spacing charts, and every notation, for example, partial holds or kumis or stuff like that. You have to put them on the Nigen. Please do not forget that. Inkavich is saying, I suffered from the same issues you did. I got taught a lot more about programs than animation. I'm a bit bitter about it. I only went 2 years, and I spent the next 12 years of my career paying for it. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, that's one of the big risks of going to animation school. Uh, is that a lot of animation schools eventually just end up teaching you software, and the software that they are friends with, honestly. Because as I said, software companies lobby the schools a lot to use their softwares. But yeah, that's one big risk of um, of going to an animation school. That's why when I was picking my school, I went to every school and I had like very deep interviews with the people at school and with the students and stuff, so that they really told me what they were learning or not. So I think I ended up picking the right school. But yeah, it, it honestly sucks that a lot of schools are just focusing on software and stuff. Someone is saying here in India, going to animation school is kind of a waste. They teach more about 3D and compositing and camera work and other stuff. Actual 2D animation is taught very less. I don't regret it though. Yeah, I imagine. They're probably trying to focus on the stuff that India does the most, which is kind of post processing and a lot of 3D. India has a very big 3D industry. But yeah, like if you want to learn other stuff like 2D animation, I think there's if you don't find like a very good school, I think there's better resources now on the internet um, that will be way cheaper to afford. Inkavich is saying, I did land work, but I had to relearn a lot of animation. I was lucky that my first job was Adult Swim and the standards were low. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know how high or low the standards of Adult Swim are. But yeah, even me, even though my school was very good, I ended up relearning a lot of stuff eventually. For example, as I've mentioned before, I didn't learn animation itself from the school. I learned animation mostly from books, like from the Animation Survival Kit, which I read several times, and from other stuff. And later, I went to other courses, other professional animation courses that taught me animation better. So yeah, like you will probably school, even the best schools will not be able to teach you everything you need. I think that's inevitable. Sadly, there's just too much to learn, and you eventually end up focusing or something on something. Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm saying, at first I didn't care much about animation. I preferred programming games, but after watching the original Gundam TV show, I was captivating and started learning how to animate. Which year is that from? Like the original Gundam you were watching? Probably pretty old. But yeah, old animation is pretty interesting. I watch old shows all the time. They're very cool because you can look at the animation way closer, like without all of the digital filters and stuff that we use now. Like it's like animation in a purer form. So it's very interesting to watch. Ace is saying most Nigans I kinda have received are hard matching, and sometimes only one or two keys are only Sakan. Yeah, that's the normal thing. They said Sakans are not supposed to help with all of the poses. They're just supposed to do the most important poses because they're just indicating how you should draw the characters. They're not supposed to do all the work. Inkavich is saying, I'm teaching at a local university and I believe believe me, my students are doing a ton of animation. I actually started the class on paper despite the lab full of computers and CT. Yeah, I agree with that method. I think animation should be taught on paper first. Uh, it's just way better. You teach your students to flip and to think about layers and stuff. I think at least for teaching, animation should be taught on paper. The original Gundam is from 1979. Yeah, very old. Even older than the stuff I watch. I generally watch stuff from the 80s and 90s. I think the oldest thing I've ever watched, like completely, was Buster, which is from the 80s. I also tried to watch Ideon, uh, which was one of Hideaki Anno's favorite animes, and it was just too old for me. I did my best though. I did my best, and it had a lot of interesting stuff. You can, for example, a lot of the characters from Evangelion are directly based on Ideon characters, like directly, even down to the way they talk. So that was very interesting. But honestly, Ideon was just too old for me. I might try to watch it later again. Someone is saying Inuyasha and Record of Lotus War made me want to cry because how beautiful they were. And all 90s anime was on some other level. I want to watch Record of Lotus War. Um, I've been actively searching for good looking animes and movies from the 90s, and Records of Lotus War always comes up. So I really want to watch it. Um, what other stuff have I watched? I've mentioned X a lot of times, even though it's a terrible movie. It's very beautiful looking. Um, Yesterday I was watching the end of Evangelion for like the 10th time, probably even more. Um, and I have to finish it today. What else? Martian's successor Nadeshiko, one of my favorite movies, also looks very good from the 90s. Um, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, that looks amazing. Probably the one that looks the best, along with X. And Metropolis. I think Metropolis is from the beginning of the 2000s though, but still very. It's like a very radical mixture of traditional animation, like cell animation, and very early 3D stuff that still looks pretty good. Metropolis is a great. This is the fifth time you mentioned the X movie. I mean, it's probably because I still have this dissociation of how bad the movie is and how good it looks. But yeah, if you guys have more recommendations on 90s and early 2000 movies that look pretty very good, you can let me know, because I'm actively looking for those. I want them as references. I'm saying, trust me, you won't be disappointed. The story had one of the most gorgeous animations of all time. I watched it recently and I was shocked at how good it looked. Did you watch because I looked at Wikipedia, and there was a couple of series and some OVAs and some movies, so maybe you can let me know which one, the one I should look at. Oh, one of the things that I remember looked pretty good, but I didn't end up watching, was the anime Street Fighter 2. That one looked very very good, but for some reason I was watching it on Amazon Prime, and while I was watching it, it just disappeared. I don't know if it's something I did or they just deleted it while I was watching it, but I could just not find it again. It was very strange, but yeah, I should look for it again. Oh, and the other stuff that looks very very good, that's one of my favorite, is the OVAs of Rurouni Kenshin. There's two series of OVAs. The first series of OVAs from Rurouni Kenshin look insane. It's probably one of the best art directions I've ever seen on anime. Just insane. The second ones look okay. I mean, they still look very good, but they're just not as good as the first one. Street Fighter 2 is so good. Yeah, it looked pretty nice. Uh, the Cowboy Bebop movie. Yeah, I also watched the Cowboy Bebop movie. Even though, no, honestly, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it also looks pretty good. It's a bit grayer than the other. I'm paying a lot of attention to the colors. But yeah, Cowboy Bebop, the Cowboy Bebop movie, it looks pretty good too. Gideon is pretty slow in the first half. The second half is entertaining and depressing. Yeah, I've also heard that Gideon gets kind of crazy later on the series, and I think the ending is also very crazy too. Um, like I haven't been fully spoiled about the ending of Gideon, but people say like, dude, it's going to change your life. Mm, Ninja Scroll had a special screening earlier this month, and it was first time watching. It's pretty good. Yeah, Ninja Scroll. Well, it's from the people that did Vampire Hunter D. Yeah, that's what that one should also be on my list. My son Ikoku. I don't remember the name, and I don't know what series is that. Oh, it's from Rumiko. No, I actually didn't know the series. I just kind of knew the name. Looks pretty good. Oh, the original Ranma too. It looks very very nice. And it's also very funny. Like I still watch Ranma sometimes, the original one, and it's just so funny. Like the jokes haven't gotten any old. I really like the original Ranma. It is very pretty. Um, Let me just saying. By the way, we will have a live animation critics this year. Yes. Actually, I think the submissions for next month, or this month, or September, just closed today or yesterday. But yeah, we will have animation critics. It's probably going to be the first thing that I'm going to do once I come back from visiting my parents. So that should be 2 weeks from now. King Cabbage is saying, I'm a big fan of comedy that repeats the same joke over and over again with slight variation. Uh, what was the name of this character? It's my favorite character of Ranma. Kuno Tatewaki? That's my favorite character of Ranma. I love him so much. It's just the best comedic relief ever. King Cabbage is saying, are you talking about Animaitsuki? I'm trying to finish mine right now. Yeah, I'm talking about Animaitsuki. Go take a look at the Discord. I might be wrong, but I thought it was closed like recently. I might be wrong, and you might have a couple of more days. But go take a look. Yeah, I'm talking about Animaitsuki. We're going to continue doing that. I'm only saying, Record of Lotus War 13 episode of the OVA is where you start. Then you continue to Ayu Gishiden, which is 27 episodes long. Wow. There's the Legend of Cristania too, but can watch later. Nice. I'm actually going to save this comment because I want to watch that. Oh no, I will die. But it was due to 30. Oh my. If it's closed, maybe you can ask and just send it. Like, it would be a shame not to have your submission. Go give it a try. Maybe they will accept it. Nice emojis. Roma was so cool. My mom didn't let me watch it though when it was on TV when I was little. Okay, let's do. So I'm going to try to do them with a um, field lasso tool. See if it works, and if not, we're going to try something else. The thing about the field lasso tool is that it's easier to correct with it because it's not a line that you have to follow, just a big like pot of color. So way easier to do this kind of stuff. You can do it in several steps and it looks good. I remember I was offered to work on this version of Ranma. I wanted to do it, but I didn't have time. I had forgotten that an email from the producers. They're actually offering. Their offer was pretty good. Later we will figure out how we do the lines, the outlines for those. You see, it's pretty. You can do this pretty quickly. Have to figure out though. These corrections, well, they eventually have shadows for the skin. One only has a few of them. Oh, you know what other 90s, early 2000 movies is very good? At least very good looking. Utena. That one looks crazy good too. Even though I didn't understand at all. I watched the movie and then I tried to watch the series of Utena. I didn't understand anything. I know this always happens to me. Like I watch some anime and I didn't understand it. Then I go to some friend that loves the series and they tell me like you don't have to understand. Like you just have to enjoy it. And I don't know if I should believe them. But yeah, Utena looks amazing, but I didn't understand the movie at all. It's very, very weird. Happened to me with Furikuri, which I actually like. I do like Furikuri, but I didn't understand. The first time I watched it, I didn't understand anything. So I went to a friend. He told me like, you need to understand it. Like you just have to enjoy it. It's like I don't know if that's how it works. Because it looks like there's some stuff that you should try to understand, right? Like Lane, for example. Lane, there's a lot of stuff to interpret there. I've watched Lane like 4 or 5 times already, like the whole series, and there's still stuff that I do not understand. I think I understand most of it, but not all of it. Lane is so good too. Lane looks very good for the year it was made. And also it looks like Lane didn't have like a very big budget. but it still looks very good because it's just so well directed. Actually got the we got all of the storyboards from Lane some time ago. I read them from time to time. They're very interesting. Some time ago, it was very hard to get Serial Experiments Lane's materials. Now, sometimes they have like resurfaced. There's a line here that it go back to the lines. Another anime that I really love, but it doesn't really fall into the same category. Talking about is Haibane Renmei. I think it looks very very distinct. It's a very special art direction. Also a very nice story. Okay, I think we're ready with this pose, but as I said, this pose doesn't have all of the shadows. At least from the saga, you see, there's no shadows on the skin. Those shadows are in another direction. So we should go to that one. Get information from there. Oh, going to make. Okay, here we're going to have to tackle the eyes. We have no choice. No, we'll try to do it fast. I don't know if you guys are new to Nigen, you might be noticing what's the actual challenge of doing Nigen with several poses. It is that even after you finish tracing all of the information from the Sakan and the Soul Sakan, not all of the information will be there in all of the frames. Like for example, look at how many details this pose has that the previous one doesn't. You see, there's a ton of shadows that this pose doesn't have. So what's going to happen? We're going to have to match them eventually. All of the details that are here, we're going to have to match to all of the other poses. And that's where the big challenge comes, because that's a lot of work, like a lot of animation work. I remember I was saying like, we're not just doing cleanup, we're actually still animating. That will be the big animation challenge. Now, it's generally not that hard to do. Like, you don't have to really break your head thinking and reasoning about it. It's just a ton of work. So, I don't know if we're going to get there now, but we're going to keep drawing. Okay? Let me read the comments before going there. Couch is saying, okay, just check, it is the 30th. Okay, nice. Sorry for scaring you up, but maybe it was the motivation you needed to finish your cut. How many saying, oh yeah, I almost forgot, Legend of Galactic Heroes is also peak 90s. Let me take a look. I don't want to lose this question. Oh yeah, I've heard about this movie. Some people say it's very special. Like it's very different from other stuff. It looks very good. Going to go to my list. Diana Suf is saying, yeah, more cool art streams. Sorry for the not related questions, but wanted to ask if you could recommend us a brush with no anti-aliasing for line art in CSP. I couldn't find one that convinces me. Sorry, but as I said before, I do not use CSP, so I'm probably not the best person to recommend you stuff on CSP. Sorry. You'll have to look somewhere else. um, but glad to have you here, though. I love having everyone here watching the stream. Impact Frames is saying, I can also relate to my classes not really teaching me how to animate. The only class that taught me was Intro to Animation. Sorry to hear that. That's honestly not good. That's the thing. I think if we're here like talking about animation education, we shouldn't normalize classes that are supposed to teach you animation but end up not doing it. I think that's definitely not good. Cabbage is saying, that's how I got into Evangelion. Had a friend translate to me. Yeah, Utena was great. The vision of Escaflowne. Yeah. That's another one that I wanted to comment on. Escaflowne. The Escaflowne movie looks great. Looks very good. I really like it. I didn't watch the series. People always tell me that the series is way better, and I believe them because the movie is very brief. Probably doesn't explain you a lot, but man, the movie looks so much better. I really like the Escaflowne movie, even if my friends do not like it. Impact Fan is saying Furiguri made no sense to me. It kind of made sense to me later. I watched it like 2 or 3 times, so eventually it kind of made sense to me. But the first time I didn't understand anything. I'm gonna say, well, no worries. Furikuri studies all over the place. It's just a story about purity and stuff. Lane was literally ahead of its time. Yeah, that's what I think. I think people overthink Furikuri sometimes, and I think it's way simpler than what people think. And yeah, Lane honestly still feels modern. It's so weird. Like it's just so good. When I was the last LA Anime Expo a few months ago, I was able to get into the expo a bit before because I was industry. So everyone was just making up their stands and stuff, and I found something that I'll probably never find again. I found someone selling a sealed set of all of the VHS of Lane, and it was like $650. Probably more though, because I kind of thought of buying it, but I didn't. Like, it was impossible. It was impossible. But it was there, and I'll probably never see it again. An opportunity that will never come back. Haman is saying, sometimes I question my life decision and then watch a good old show with a great animation and then get motivated to continue. Yeah, it happens a lot. If you're dedicated a lot of years to animation, like you sometimes need some motivation. I've heard a lot of animators, like especially people that work on anime. A lot of my colleagues say that they eventually end up hating anime or animation, because they watch an anime and they cannot stop thinking about work. But to me, it's the contrary. Like, most of the anime I consume it through doing it. Like, for example, I've read the storyboards of so many stuff that are going to come out next year that sometimes I do not feel like watching it because I already know what's going to happen. But from time to time, I also feel that I need some motivation for animation. Like I need to watch some good animation to recharge my motivation. And also something that it happened to me before, now not so much. Um, I I was working on anime so much, like doing so much layout and Nigen, like day after day for years, that I eventually thought I was forgetting how anime actually looked. Like on screen, like the final product. So I was like, yeah, I'm only thinking about keys all the time. Like I kind of forget how it looks once it's painted and in between. So I made myself watch more anime so uh, I didn't lose my sense of animation, I guess. Uh, Pink Cabbage is saying, I know some animators in Japan that still work on paper. All the super clean lines, do they just do it on paper with pencil? Maybe on fresh sheet of paper? Yeah, they just do it on paper with pencil. Honestly, most animators in Japan still use paper, like most of them. If you go to um any animation studio that's not necessarily new, like studios that have been there for like a decade or more, they still use a ton of paper. Like it's full of desks and stuff. And yeah, they just use normal paper and pencil. Um, One of the things I noticed, because here in the West, when you're animating, you generally use what's called colorized pencils. Have you guys heard of those? Which are basically colored pencils that you can erase. They're very good. They're from Prismacolor, and they're kind of a standard for Western animation when you work on paper. Um, but the Japanese use another set of pencils that I thought were kind of similar, like because they always praise those pencils so much. Um, Even there was this situation where I think the company was, no, not the company, the factory was going to close because it's a set of Mitsubishi pencils they use. Um, they were going to close the factory, so the Japanese animators just rushed to the stores to buy all of the pencils they could. So I thought, well, these pencils must be amazing. And I tried them when I was in Japan, and honestly, I didn't find them to be anything special. I don't know. Maybe I'm not using them the right way, but I'll stick with the color erase pencils. If you guys want to practice paper animation, you should buy color erase pencils. Or the best you can get. Not sponsored, by the way. Um, I think they do some cleanup digitally. I mean, the final cleanup is always digital because the paint is digital, right? But up until Nigen, it is, um, or maybe up to Doga. Yeah, honestly, to Doga to in betweening, it's still done on paper a lot. You can, if you go to Tokyo, you can always go to what's the name of this mall that I always forget? There's this mall that only sells anime stuff and luxury watches, and on top of it, on the last floor, there's this stores that sell anime materials, like stuff that they get from the studios and animators sell sometimes. You can get their like original Genga on paper, and when the first time I went, we were just amazed at how clean everything was on paper. Uh, it's great. Like you should go take a look. What's the name of the mall though? Let me take a look. You know, someone commented on my last stream that I don't know if it's a mall actually. Uh, oh, Nakano Broadway. Yeah, Nakano Broadway. That's the store complex where you can get like the original anime stuff. It's very interesting to go there. And also they have a lot of, as I said, like Nakano Broadway only sells anime stuff and luxury watches. So it's like my two favorite stuff together in just one place. Like, literally my favorite place in the world. I'm only saying, man, the Ghost of those beaches. It's truly a rough situation. Man, I wish I just had the money to buy those, but yeah, it was a bit too much. Bertie saying there's curve rulers such that help you with drawing on paper. Yeah, I guess. Um, honestly, I never really learn how to use those, but yeah, I guess those are very useful. There's also like these rulers to do like circles and ellipses and stuff. Those are very useful too, especially for stuff like eyes. Um, those are people use them a lot. That's the dream. Maybe I'll do my next Animaitsuki on paper. That would be very interesting. I don't think we have gotten any Animaitsuki submission on paper. Cabbage is saying they're not selling them individually anymore, only in pack with every color. You used to be able to buy like a whole box of one color. Oh yeah. You're talking about the Prismacolor stuff. Last time I looked at it was some months ago. I looked at Amazon, and they were selling some individual colors of Prismacolor, especially red and blue, like the normal ones. Those were selling individually. But yeah, now you have to buy the whole boxes, which is still not that terrible. Like the pencils honestly last a long time. I'm saying that pencil is the most normal pencil to ever exist. It's just because it produces very consistent lines. Those Mitsubishi pencils are the soul of JP animators. Yeah, I guess that's the reason. That could be a good reason, honestly, why they use them. But as I said, like when I tried them in Japan, I was like, no, I'll stick with my Prismacolor that I can actually erase. But yeah, I think that's a good reason why they like using those. Shadow is saying, I really hate drawing on paper. I will never go back. You know, I think I thought the same when I began animating, like back then at school. But eventually it becomes, I don't know, I think it's kind of relaxing to do it on paper. And as I said, you can get very, very fast working on paper. Like it's crazy. Impact Friends is saying, wait, really? I thought people who freehanded circles were wizards or something. I mean, I'm sure there's two people who can just do them freehand, but yeah, like, I know Japanese animators use those templates a lot, like to do circles and ellipses. Seen them a lot in Japan. Inkaj is saying, I was wondering about the newer stuff One Piece has been doing, especially the big fights with Kaido. If it seems like some of the sequences were done by one animator, style kept shifting. Do you know how that is organized? Is still going through Nigen steps? Or is each artist just making it mostly themselves? I mean, I've seen I think I've seen the fights or the sequences you mentioned. They generally have to go through some level of correction, right? Maybe when you're doing like some very crazy stuff and you are like the very special animator they have, like the guys who end up like animating on those sequences, maybe they'll give you some level of freedom. But that level of freedom generally is to deliver very rough layouts and then they correct your stuff. Like the director said, okay, it looks okay, and then it goes through the second, and the second basically dies, uh, correcting all of your stuff, and then you have to clean them. Yeah, I think they still go through Nigen. Like, it would be very weird if they didn't. Um, Inkavich is saying, I asked because the characters' models change a lot. I assume they were getting someone super famous to work on it and bring their style on the style to it. Yeah, that's the idea, honestly. Like for those kind of sequences, now it's kind of in fashion to just bring a cool animator and let them do whatever they want. Not don't do whatever they want, but um, let their style be visible. And the Sakan will sometimes correct some very like important stuff, like some weird poses and stuff, but it still goes through some level of correction. It cannot just go past through everything. That would be very dangerous. But yeah, that's basically how they do it. Like they contact animators and they tell them, hey, we have this very special sequence. Do you want to participate? And they give you a lot of freedom to do stuff. I've had a couple of those opportunities in Black Clover mainly, but Black Clover is also more solid than other stuff like One Piece. They still gave me a lot of freedom when I was working on some action on Black Clover, but I don't know, it was still an interesting experience. Okay, let's keep drawing or we run out of time. We'll be talking a lot. I'm actually okay about that. Again, we're going to begin with Sosakan first. Look at the difference. You have some comparison. Sosakan basically straight and straight. Made everything more straight. I still have some difficulty with those words. Where should we begin? We can begin anywhere, honestly. With the hair. Correct layer. One of the things I didn't know, now that we're talking about like action sequences and stuff, one of the things I didn't know and I learned recently is that a lot of times when there's like a crazy fight and they bring some famous animator, they let them storyboard the fight themselves, which I didn't know was a common practice. By the way, if you guys have any question like going around on your head, you should ask it now, because remember that I won't be streaming for the next 2 weeks. I'll still be like on the internet, for example, the Sakura Foundry Discord and stuff, answering questions. But if you want your question like answer on stream, you should maybe ask now. After 2 weeks, we back to normal. By the way, we were talking about Japan. Have you guys gone to Japan? I wanted to go on October, this next month, but I wasn't able. I didn't have enough time. Try to go for the end of the year, maybe at the beginning of the next year. I kind of miss Japan, honestly. Like I was the last time I was there was for 3 months, 3 full months, and I came back and I was like, man, it's not the same. It's so very peaceful, very safe. There's a lot of interesting stuff to buy. Great to shop around, especially in Tokyo. I don't know the other cities. We're working a bit faster. I said like it's been ages since I did Nigen. Did you notice what I was doing, by the way? This is what I say that the lasso tool is just the best tool because you can use it for everything. I use it to erase. It's the best eraser the whole software. And I'm honestly avoiding those eyes, but I'll eventually have to do them. I'll probably end up using a tool though to do those ellipses. Okay, let's do the eyes. Let's try. You see a little X here? That is Yoshi erasing eyelashes. Because Sakan had an extra eyelash there. Okay, let's try to do this. I think I'll try to use this. I think it will work. Maybe I should begin from the outside, so I can manipulate those. I'm going to select, do some tool. It looks pretty good, pretty accurate. Do it again. Do an extra layer though, so I can manipulate it without trying the other one. I mean, I can just merge the layer. That was pretty. Wasn't that terrible? At least the black part. Like look at the amount of stuff that's inside. Okay, let's do the next one. Oh, by the way, I remember something. You remember last stream we had a question about the color of the sheets that the directors and the Enshutsu uses? Remember? Let me make a. We were talking about the director sheets for corrections. We said like most of them were going to be pink, but sometimes they were green. So I found out the difference. Honestly, I should have known before. I probably just forgot. So here it is. Pink is for the Kantoku, from the director of the whole production. Green is for the Enshutsu, the director of the episode. That's the big difference. So now you know exactly who is destroying your cut. Okay, I should do this, like this graphics again that I did last stream. I should do them before leaving my parents. I can leave them for you on the drive or maybe on the. Yeah, that was crazy. To the. Give me a second. Okay, my mom was messaging me for sometimes I didn't want to let her. Okay, I got distracted. Let's read comments. That is asking, can you find more information about storyboard and character designs in the survival kit from Tonari? I think they have a section about storyboard, but they don't necessarily teach you how to storyboard. Because that's the thing. That's why I think we need at least 1 or 2 streams to talk about storyboard, because storyboard is actually filmmaking. Like, it's not just doing your tiny drawings on your template and that's a storyboard. Storyboard is a big process that has a lot of stuff that you have to pay attention to. So I would like to teach you guys storyboard like from the deepest place I can, so that you guys can actually use it. Most of the storyboard things that you'll find, like for example on Japanese animation stuff, we'll talk about the template and notations and stuff, which is not necessarily what storyboard is about. Okay, it's still important, but not really what you should focus at the beginning. Inkavich is saying, I heard them talking about that each artist storyboards their own sequence when Jared interviewed with Bancroft Brothers. That blew my mind. I think I haven't heard that interview, at least for a long time. But yeah, like I also found out very recently that it was becoming common, and it also blew my mind. I don't know if I would be confident enough as a director to let someone else storyboard for my stuff. I'm honestly a very controlling director. I'm only saying I want to go, but I have so many issues, so I might not be able to. By the way, I want to join a studio in Japan. Is it possible to submit my reel and stuff while I'm visiting as a tourist? Probably not. You know what would be useful? If you began working, if you are already working on anime through the internet, if you are already working with a studio and you know some producers and stuff, if you go to Japan, you can let them know, and they will probably be happy to meet you. I met some producers that I knew in Japan, and they were very nice to me. They took me to the studios, and they asked me if I wanted to stay and work with them. So I think that's the most direct way to show the studio the things you have, because I've said before, just sending your stuff or just appearing out of nowhere at a studio is not always well received. Cleo is saying, I worked in Sasebo for a few years. It was great living there, but I was working so much. It was rare to go out. Only went to Tokyo once, but I definitely want to go back. It kind of happened the same to me. When I was in Tokyo, I was working on the Ren Soto video. So I rarely went out too. I was in my room all the time. They're saying I've never been in Japan, but I think the northern part looks interesting. What's in the north of Japan? my geography is leaving me. I think the north gets pretty cold though. Like some people have warned me about how cold Japan gets. I was saying, right? I would like to go to Hakodate in the winter. Northern Japan is truly beautiful. Yeah, maybe I should probably visit more than just Tokyo this time if I go. I was in Tokyo during the winter. And honestly, it was the best because it wasn't that cold at all. It snowed a bit a couple of times, but it wasn't terribly cold. And it wasn't hot either, so I think that was the best part of the year to visit Tokyo at least. Amani saying, storyboards are the most fun part of animation, but also takes a lot of skill to make it good. Yes, I agree. It's very fun to do storyboards, but you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you might end up doing a mess. Just ask me that I tried to storyboard during my whole education in animation, and it was a mess most of the time. But eventually, I think I got it good. At least I think the the videos I made for Terraria are well storyboarded. Okay, uh, let's continue. Continue. Oh, I want to use every minute we have. Oh, by the way, before I forget, do you know what other early, like other 90s, early 2000 anime looks amazing? Let me see how it's pronounced. So I think it is pronounced Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko. You can search for it on YouTube. I think you can also search for it like Yokohama Shopping Diaries or something like that. That anime, the first one, because there's two seasons. And there's one season that's all analog, and there's one season that's digital. The analog one looks amazing. It's also one of the most beautiful looking animes I've ever seen. The colors are unmatched. Honestly, I still can't figure out how they could calculate those colors just just with paint. Like it's hard to do it on digital to get such nice colors. Imagine how hard it was with paint. But yeah, look at that anime. I think it's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. Kama Kaidachi Kiko, something like that. And it's about robots, and I like robots. If you haven't noticed yet. Apart from Tokyo, I went to Yokohama for one day, and it's very funny because Yokohama is like what people imagine Tokyo will look like. Because when people imagine Tokyo, they imagine a very, very futuristic city. But the truth is, Tokyo is like that only in the very center and commercial areas. Most of Tokyo is actually very old and very residential. But Yokohama is like that futuristic city people imagine Tokyo will be. Way smaller, of course, way smaller than Tokyo. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, let's do this. Let's not go around this anymore. Yes. Did you recording? I know I haven't separated the layers, but I think I'm confident I'm not messing it up. Again, when I say to separate your layers during Nigen, it's just so that you don't get lost uh, or paint over something that you will have to correct later. But then you will have to combine everything. The It can be kind of relaxing if you're not like within the deadline or something. Like doing this stuff for tomorrow can be kind of relaxing. I think it looks pretty decent. I don't think Yoshi would shout to me. I'll finish this eye and I'll go back to the chat. I tried doing an experiment before the stream. I tried to see if, because I'm using my iPhone to animate the model, like the VTuber model, but I wanted to know if, while using, if I could minimize the After software, I could read the chat on my iPhone at the same time, and it didn't work. I really need a monitor. Nice. This before. I'm pretty decent. Okay. Impact Frames is saying, ironically, I'm also doing storyboards for my senior project. Oh yes, ironically, I'm also doing storyboards for my senior project. Good luck with that. Good luck. At least I hope you're having fun, because doing storyboards is pretty fun. I'm saying, hey Beast, did you watch the trailer for the new movie, the creator of Kite or Kita 1998 was making? His character animation always looked so beautiful. I watched the trailer. I don't know if I understood really the context, but yeah, I watched the trailer and I identified the guy. I honestly want to watch more stuff from him. But yeah, the trailer looked very interesting. I think I should be careful though, because I think some of the stuff this guy is not safe for work. So I should be careful who am I watching it with. Kitten was banned in my country. Yeah, as I said, like I was aware that some of the stuff from Umetsu was not safe for work. Which honestly I don't have any problem with. I just have to be careful not to watch it with my mom or something. Okay. How much time do we have? We're nearing 3 hours. We should keep working until the end. Okay. Let's try to finish the Sosakan at least. By the way, I don't remember if I mentioned this. You guys can tell me. But there's a big probability that if you guys begin working doing second key, they might send you all of these corrections and stuff on paper scanned. And in that case, it's very, very likely that all of the pegs will be misaligned. Did I mention that on the last stream? You can let me know. In that case, you have two options. If you're lucky, you will know if your software has a peg alignment tool, which TV Paint does have, and it's very good. And if not, you will have to do it visually. You'll have to go through every single cell and align the pegs, like using transparency or something like that, and try to align them as best as you can. But hopefully your software will have a peg alignment tool. As I said, the one on TV-Paint is pretty good. Is it? I haven't used it in a while. Those. What's around here somewhere? Plugins. Next. Check holes registration. So basically, what you do here is tell them set pegs position here, and it will give you this, and you try to. This one is a bit different though than the one I had. I'm not going to do it here, but I'm just going to show you the theory of it. You give them like a range of where the software should find the pegs, and I mean the long ones. And then you select all of the images and then say apply, and the software will magically align most of them. Very, very good. As I said, I'm not going to do it here because they are all already aligned and will waste time. But your software should have something similar. I'm pretty sure CSP has something like that, and I'm sure Toon Boom has something like this too. But the one on TV Paint is pretty good, so you should know that it is there. to the guys that were in Japan at some point, did you guys like the Japanese food? I had a very hard time with Japanese food, honestly. It's very different from the kind of food I usually eat. I had a very hard time. I had my favorite ramen place though. It was the place that was under the Tokyo Station. It was kind of hidden in those infinite malls that they have under the stations. But it was my favorite. It was the best ramen I've ever eaten. But apart from that, I had a very hard time with the food. I ended up eating most of the time on Western places. Like eating some beef, vegetables and stuff. And I also ordered a lot of Wendy's until I was beginning to get sick. Probably not the most culturally enriching experience. I was really struggling. Wait, the guys from Japan will know this, but people always act surprised when I tell them that in Japan there's good ramen, but there's also very bad ramen. There's some very mediocre, let's say, ramen places in Japan too, and it's very noticeable when you're eating something good, something that's not that good. People always said like, but aren't they supposed to be like experts? I was like, no, like there's bad ramen just like anywhere else. Okay, I think we finished the backlines at least. Let's try to do shadows. Oh, even though we have like 3 minutes. Okay, let me read some comments. And we see what we do. One is saying his animation has always been wild. Legendary falling scene still lives rent free. Are you talking about that scene where the girl and a guy fall from a building and they just go through several layers of like underground stuff like with the car? If you're thinking about the same, yeah, that was very wild. Bansai TV Paint. Thanks God those features exist. Yeah, it's very good that they exist. As I said, the peckhole registration from TV Paint is very good. I don't know how good are the other ones. I remember we had some troubles at some point at school because some of us we had Acme peg holes, and acme pack bars at school, but not all of us. So one teacher had the idea of using a student pack holes, which are the instead of these are acme pack holes. But there's also something that's called student pack holes, which are instead of this long holes here, they are all circles like this. And the idea is that you can use like a normal puncher to do that. But the trouble we had is that we had a lot of trouble having Toon Boom register these specs, because Toon Boom was programmed to register acme pack holes. We couldn't get it to register student pack holes. But yeah, I don't know if they fixed it eventually or it was our mistake. But that was one problem that we faced eventually. I think I was just saying, I want to visit Japan so badly. By the way, where are you originally from, Javis? I prefer not to talk about that for privacy reasons. It's not about you guys, but I've had some crazy interactions in the internet, so I'm a bit private about that stuff. Sorry, I can tell you now. Bert is saying the ramen was better in Japan and 3 times cheaper. Well, I guess the ramen in Japan is better than the ramen you generally eat at your country, maybe. But I've also tasted a lot of very disappointing ramen in Japan. I only have one place in my country that makes ramen comparable to the one in Japan, and it's okay. But the one that was my favorite is unreplaceable. I hope it still exists. I hope it still exists, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be very, very sad. Clearly saying, I refused to eat ramen for the longest because I thought it was microwave cup stuff. Now it's one of my favorite food. I mean, the one that you get on restaurants, it's very different, right? One thing that I found out in Japan too is that they sell fresh ramen too, like fresh, like kind of frozen. I guess that's not fresh, but that you can keep on the freezer or your fridge. And it was better than the cup ramen, but not as good as normal store ramen. It was pretty decent though. It saved me a couple of times, like the fresh ramen. The question I also want to know, as an Indian, I'm used to rest of Asia's food cultures. Yeah, I guess you guys are closer to most Asian foods if you live closer. I think I was just saying, I guess you can get a bad hamburger in America. I've been to America a lot for the past couple of years. The thing that happens to me is that I always end up eating trash in America, because I'm used to eating a lot of vegetables and stuff, like just a very balanced diet generally. But when I go to America, I'm always there for work, so I'm always running from one place to another, and we always end up eating hamburgers and I generally get sick. One of the things I learned though is that it is very good, or at least better, for me to go to Subway in America, because I can get all of the vegetables I want there. Like, I just make a big vegetable sandwich, and I can keep my gut from dying if I go to the Subway more often. Yeah, America has a lot of meat in it. Yeah, and the portions are so big too. I felt um, guilty a lot of times, leaving a lot of food on my table. But man, like that's more food than what a normal human can eat. But I just had to get used to it. Uh, Impact Frame says, as a McDonald's employee, I in the States, I wonder what it would be like working at uh Mac um the McDonald's in Japan is very different. I don't know how different it is to work there, but it's not at all like Western McDonald's. They sell very weird stuff in the McDonald's from Japan, and almost all of the other fast food places, like the Kentucky from Japan is also very different. Um, like the first place I went when I arrived to Tokyo was a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and along with my chicken, they gave me a lot of stuff that looked like breakfast stuff, and I was very puzzled. But I guess that's what they like. Um, yeah, fast food in Japan is crazy. That's why I ended up eating at Wendy's, because Wendy's was the one that looked more like the Western uh, fast food. Uh, Hamburgers aren't even American though; they're German. I miss Asian food. The food here is sorry to hear that. I'm gonna say, Shadow, you should just buy a sheep walk and buy some sauces and spices, stuff like that, vegetables and meat. It's not that hard to make it at home. It's normal to take the food home. The portioning is made not to be finished in one sitting. Yeah, yes. I guess sadly, as I said, like we're always running when I go to America, so I cannot take the food with me. Yeah, yeah, Japanese food. It was a struggle for me. Maybe I'll be a bit braver next time, and I'll try more stuff. Okay, let's try to do at least some of this, shadows. We're leaving. We're already past 3 hours, and we haven't advanced that much at all. Now that I noticed, these aren't even shadows. These are just the color of her hair, not shadows. Shadows are these ones, the pink ones here. You'll have to match them anyway. Forget the place that I ate the most in Japan at. I'll eventually remember. It was a place that only served like meat and vegetables. There were a lot of those in Tokyo. pepper lunch. That was the pepper lunch. I ended up going to going to pepper lunch once a day, every day, and I would eat there, and that would be my only food. It would be my only meal of the day, except from maybe some snacks. And the thing is, the portions were so big that it was okay. And now I kind of miss purple. I remember when we were with talking with studio people like in Japan and stuff. Sometimes they would say like, let's go to eat like some fancy place, and I was like, no, let's go to Pepper Lunch. It's close, it's cheap, and it's very good. It was my go-to place always. Problem with me too is that I don't eat sushi and not eat sushi. So I think I'm missing a lot of the food culture in Japan just because of that. Reminder though to make that those graphics before I leave. And the other thing is that it's hard to travel with all my equipment anywhere because I have a very big setup. And though even though I use like a laptop, but honestly, I could maybe take there's no way I can take the pen display and the microphone and sound stuff with me. That would be impossible. Not this time. Actual shadows. Oh, there's a line. think we finished the Sosakan part at least. Oh, there's some lines here that we're... These lines are gradients indicators. This was one of the other problems we had eventually with the video. We were very close to the deadline, and we noticed that a lot of the cuts that came back from compositing, they didn't have the gradients on the hair. Like all of this stuff, they were not applied. They had just the separation of the color, like here. You see that the colors are separated here, but they're actually supposed to be a gradient, like we told the compositing people, and I think they forgot to do it in some points. And man, that was kind of a chaos because we had to send a lot of cuts back to compositing, and we were very close to the deadline. We noticed too late. That eventually worked. Like there wasn't any terrible consequence, but it was some experience. Okay, before I just close the stream, I want to show you how the final Genga of this cut looks. Like, imagine that we actually finish all of this stuff. It should look something like this. The finished Genga. This cut. See, we only have the text on top and the logo, not the rest of the fields and stuff from layout. We have all of the poses. They all have the same level of detail. They all have the shadows. They all have the highlights. That's one of the questions people always ask me. Like, when I'm doing Nigen, do I have to make the shadows and highlights for all of the poses? And the answer is yes. All of them, same level of detail, except for stuff like in-between guides. Those you can pass up to a certain point and not shadow highlight. But all of the keys and the extremes and keys and extremes, you have to do shadows and highlights. And again, the notations are here, like the numbering. If there was any spacing chart or anything, it should also pass to the Nigen. Okay, I already uploaded this Genga to the folders in the Google Drive. Okay, so you can just download this and use it for whatever you want. Before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to upload the rest of the Genga for the cuts that I showed you last time. Okay, because I have to retrieve them from the depths of Tonari, and I'm going to upload them to you so you can compare. Okay, let's take a closer look. You see that people say it is very, very clean, like almost final cleanup, but it's not perfect. You see, there's still there's still open lines here, stuff like that. There's some lines that cross there. Very, very minimal stuff, but stuff that would not be possible to pass on Dota. Okay, it is very clean, but it's not perfect, and it should not be perfect either. Like, this face is specifically to finish. Let me look here. Finish there. This phase is specifically to apply the corrections from the director and the Sakan, and to finish the whole animation, because as I said, not all of these poses originally come with shadows and highlights, all of the details in all of the houses, and you have to animate those. Okay, so that's what Nigen is for. So you should focus on that instead of trying to make it perfect. Like here, for example, you see this line was made like pretty fast, and so he just passed there. Like it's okay, not terrible for Nigen, but for cleanup or final cleanup in Doga, it would be unacceptable. Okay, but let me read the final comments, and I think we can wrapping up stream. Celius is saying, got any tips on learning color theory? It's hard to wrap my head around it. Color theory is not easy. It's not an easy topic. It depends for what too. If you are focused on painting, maybe color theory about painting, you can read Color and Light from Gurney. That's one of the basic textbooks about color and paint. Basically, he teaches you how we humans perceive color, how the environment affects colors, and how to apply that to paintings and stuff. So that's a very good book to begin with. There's another book that's called Color and Light by another guy that's called Jori Tornquist. That's a very hard to get book. It's not easy to get, and I don't know if it's available in English or openly available in English. I have it in Spanish. That book is even more in depth about color theory. Like, it will teach you about the light waves and stuff, and it gets very, very complex at some points. But it's also a very good book. It also taught me a lot of stuff. Another thing that you can do, that you should read some books at least about color theory. The other thing that you can do is just watch stuff that you like anime that you like for example, an anime that has very nice colors and stuff, and try to look at it with a bit more attention. I think that's the key to learn from the stuff you watch. You're no longer watching it as a viewer, but as a person who's analyzing the stuff. I did that a lot with, for example, Yokohama Kaide Chikiko, the series that I mentioned. I went through every frame or every cut of the series, trying to see why I like the colors so much, and I think I learned a lot of stuff from that. But yeah, color theory is not an easy to tackle topic. It will basically take you a lifetime to learn all about color. I'm only saying is answering. Trial and error is going to be your best friend. Not gonna lie, everyone's eyes see things a bit different. So yeah. Also, wasn't there a short for this? Oh, that's a question for me. But yeah, that's also one important thing that Aman is saying. Everyone sees stuff a bit different. Everyone's eyes are a bit different. So yeah, that's something to have in mind when learning about color and stuff. Even for stuff like perspective. One thing that I found really interesting is that our eyes are all they all have different shapes at some point. Some of our eyes are longer, some are shorter and stuff, and that actually affects how we look at the world in terms of perspective. So when I say when I'm talking about perspective to you guys, and I say that perspective is never going to be perfect, no matter how good at calculations you are, is because of that. It's because perspective is a tool to imitate reality, but it's never going to be perfect, because to begin with we don't perceive perspective same way, all of us. King Cabbage is saying, I have to run off to bed, but thanks again for streaming. I learned so much. I'm glad you learned so much. And have a good rest. Silas is saying, 1 meal a day sounds like it would be hard to do for a long periods of time. Yeah, it was hard, honestly. But I didn't have much choice. I still think I ate pretty well because, as I said, they were very good portions and very balanced. A lot of meat and a lot of vegetables. I was pretty okay with my portions. Uh, Shadow is saying, if you have been together with an Asian, you know what the real deal is. By the way, I'm not a good cook. So Aman was talking about the sharks. Did you mention the sharks because of the color thing or because of the layout thing? I thought you were talking about the layout. Let's see if I don't think we had a chart on the layout. No, there were no charts. This cut was very very fast. Gura just moves from one pose to another, and there were no spacing charts. So unless let me look at the but 40 sheet. Yeah, no in betweens. So yeah, uh, there were no charts, so no charts on Nigen either. Let me keep reading. Whoops. Silius is saying, how long did it take to fix? Are you talking about the Nigen? If you're talking about the Nigen, it probably took like 6 hours or something like that to do it all together. Looks so nice. Yeah, average day as an animator. But it's so satisfying once you get through it. Yes, actually very satisfying once you get to look at the Negan finished. It's even more satisfying. You know what the most satisfying part is? At least for me, when I was doing when I was directing, it was the when the painted cells arrived. When after Doga, after in between, after painting, when those cells arrived, it was the best because I could finally say like, okay, the cut is working. We didn't mess it up. And then you can join it with the background, and everything looks so nice after the cells arrive. So yeah, that was the most satisfying part for me. Gap's still open, yes. Thank you for the stream. Do you speak Spanish? Yes, I do speak Spanish. If you haven't noticed by my broken English. Shadow is saying, so the Doga in between do cleanups too? Yes, I am. So the Doga in betweens do cleanup too. And what's the next step after Genga Nigen? After Genga Nigen, there might be a phase of Genga Sakan. Not all of the productions have Genga Sakan, but there might be a Genga Sakan. Being a Genga Sakan kind of sucks because you can no longer correct just one pose like you do in layout Sakan. You have to correct the whole cut. If something is wrong in one pose, it's probably wrong in all of the other poses, so you have to correct the whole thing. So that's one of the jobs I really, really hate, Genga Sakan. But after that, they go to Doga. And Doga is both cleanup and in between. Because you have to do cleanup on the poses first before you in between. Otherwise, you will not get a clean line. Okay? And after that, it goes to paint. And after that, it goes to compositing. Celius is saying, thanks for the book recommendation. It will definitely be useful. Yeah, begin from Color and Light from Gurney. That's the basic one. The one from your return quest is very, very hard, so you should do it after. Whoops. Looks like the signal is not very good. You guys losing signal? I mean, losing my stream? Let me know. Good advice. Why we have Dove so you can study animation? But Shadow is saying, when do you know when to use an in-between guide? An in-between guide is used between extremes. Let me try to make the example I always do. You might have two extremes, or two keys, as you would call them in Japanese animation. The character looking this way, and then he looks this way. But if you have something like this, you wanna do one in between, let's say. More, but we're talking about the middle. You want to do the middle. If you do exactly the middle position, it's going to look pretty robotic. It's going to be like this, and the character will be very stiff, and it will not look natural like a living person. What we usually do when we have a situation like this is we do an arc. So the head goes a bit down, and then we do a blink generally, like this. And then with this middle, the movement looks way more natural. That's basically what an in-between guide does. So you have two extremes, this one and this one, a middle pose, and then some other in-betweens. But one of these in-betweens, because in-between guides are also in-betweens, you should not forget that. One of these in-betweens need a bit more of a special movement or a special drawing, so it doesn't, so the in-betweening is not all uniform. So for that, we use an in-between guide. Let's say this is 1 and this is 2. This in-between guide could be 1.5, and it would be this drawing. Okay, but that's the thing. When between two extremes, you need something else to make it work. Maybe an arc, or maybe a blink, or any other indication that you need to communicate to the in-betweener so that he doesn't do the mechanical in-between. That's an in-between guide. And it's always good to remember that in-between guides are in-betweens, just like this ones. So they have to exist inside a spacing chart. You cannot do this in Japanese animation, for example. 1, 2. In-between guide in the extreme. You cannot do that. Okay, that's it. It doesn't work because you're asking them to do in-betweens in the middle of an in-between. And that can only work if you're working inside of the spacing chart. Okay, basically in-between guides. I think I went through that way clearly on the basic animation and probably the basic layout stream. You need more information. I'm only saying, hey Beast, just now saw Tensura already got season 4 announcement and also second movie announcement. And they're working on their animation as fast as possible. What's Tensura? Oh, the slime anime. Yeah, honestly, I'm happy I'm not working on that anymore. I just worked on that once at the very beginning of my anime career, and never again, never again. But yeah, it looks like they're and I wouldn't say rushing it, but they're putting a lot of work on it. That anime actually makes a lot of money. Do you know? Uh, Especially with merchandising and pachinko, that anime makes a ton of money. Is kind of unsuspected if you look at it from outside Japan, but in Japan it makes a lot of money. Zen is asking, whoever does Nigen has to clean up something from the in-between guides? Yes. Let me see if I have some images to show you about that. I don't know if I downloaded those images or where I did. But yes, the answer is yes. If you are doing Nigen, you have to still clean the in-between guides. You don't have to clean them to the level of detail that you clean the keys. Like for example, you'll not have an in-between guide with all of the shadows and all of the highlights, like this ones. But if you had an in-between guide here, it would probably just be the black lines or part of a character. Like for example, you could have an in-between guide that's all of the head without the face, because that's the part that you want the in-betweener to focus. Okay. Man, maybe I can get them from Discord. That would be, it would be very good to show you to you how in between guides are done in Nigen. See if my Discord works, because last night it was not working at all. Here. This is an example I used to people in the Agua Foundry Discord. How in between guides are handled during Nigen. So we have two keys, A7 and A9, and in the middle we have an in-between guide that's 8. And the in-between guide in Nigen looks like this. See? It's not done at the same level of detail. Some part of the drawings are lacking, for example, like the details here in the hair ornaments. Because again, an in-between guide is a guide. It's something to guide the in-betweener, to let them know how they have to do the drawing, but the idea is not to do the whole drawing for them. Same with the different hair colors. You see they're present on the keys, both of the keys, but not here. because the important part was to let them know how this part of the hair is moving. Then the in-betweener can figure out how to in between that part. Okay, that's basically what you do with in-between guides on Nigen. You just do them to the level needed for the in-between guide to work. Okay, but yeah, you still have to touch them, you still have to clean them, especially because in-between guides generally are very rough from layout. People use in-between guides in layout to basically not do a lot of the work. Okay, we're nearing we're nearing 4 hours. I think this is the longest stream we've ever made. But we need to wrap it up. So thank you guys for coming. Hope you guys will wait for me for 2 weeks until I come back from visiting my parents and I can stream again. Probably I'll be doing the animation critiques when I come back. So send your submissions if you're on it. Yeah, I'll use the time also to figure out what other stuff I can show you. I also have a lot of ideas to do the next streams. So we'll totally come back to normal. It's just 2 weeks that I'll be out and we'll be streaming again. So thank you guys for coming. It was very nice to talk to you. We talked a lot today, even though I said I was just going to draw. But it was very nice, and you guys showed me some cool stuff too. Okay, guys, we'll be leaving. See you in 2 weeks, unless you're going on the Discord, and then we can just talk. Okay, bye guys. See you.